Hello everyone. Today's lecture deals with the continuation of sources of pollution and control strategies, part 1. Pollution is an indicator of an inefficient process. Pollution control methods are investments that ensure long-term profits. The threats caused by air, water and soil pollutants is a big menace to humanity, and moreover prevention of pollution is not so simple. It is impracticable to provide at reasonable cost all the growing needs and amenities of modern lifestyles, which are resulting pollutants into the environment. It is, however, possible to prevent pollution without undue cost by careful planning to set up industries, prevention of waste, better design and operation of equipment, and finally maintenance, that is upkeep of the management system. We spray our elms and the following spring trees are silent of robin's song, not because we sprayed the robins directly, but because the poison travelled step by step through the now familiar elm, earthworm, robin cycle. Rachel Carson. This quotation appeared in Rachel Carson's book entitled Silent Spring. In the years following the publication of Silent Spring in 1962, the book has inspired controversy and has initiated a major change in thinking about the safety of using pesticides and other toxic chemicals. The subject expert is Mrs. B. Vidya Komodani, an environmentalist who taught environmental sciences in Andhra University and in Amity University, Noida. She presented several papers in national and international seminars. And I am Sakshi Mandwal. Part 2 of this lecture deals with marine pollution, noise pollution, thermal pollution and nuclear hazards. Marine pollution. Marine pollution is defined as a discharge of waste substances into the sea, resulting in detrimental impacts to the living resources, hazards to human health and marine life. Marine pollution is associated with the physical, chemical and biological conditions of seawater as a result of eutrophication process. The greatest damage to water is inflicted by petroleum and its products. Oil enters water from breakdowns on derricks, wrecks of oil tankers, accidental spillage, cleaning of fuel tanks by merchant and warships, and also from street cleanings. Marine pollution is the introduction of substances to the marine environment directly or indirectly by human beings, resulting in adverse effects such as hazards to human health, obstruction of marine activities, and lowering the quality of seawater. Pollution due to organic waste. The amount of oxygen dissolved in the water is vital for the plants and animals living in it. Wastes which directly or indirectly affect the oxygen concentration play an important role in determining the quality of the water. Normally, the greatest volume of waste discharged to watercourses, estuaries and sea is sewage, which is primarily organic in nature and is degraded by bacterial activity. Using the oxygen present in the water, these wastes are broken down into stable inorganic compounds. However, as a result of this bacterial activity, the oxygen concentration in the water is reduced. When the oxygen concentration falls below 1.5 mg per liter, that is milligram per liter, the rate of anaerobic oxidation is reduced and replaced by the anaerobic bacteria that can oxidize the organic molecules without the use of oxygen. This results in end products such as hydrogen sulfide, ammonia and methane, which are toxic to many organisms. Thereby, this process results in the formation of an anoxic zone, which is low in its oxygen content, from which most life disappears except for anaerobic bacteria, fungi, yeast and some protozoa, and renders the water foul-smelling. Sources. The causes of marine pollution may be similar to that of general water pollution. However, there are some very specific causes that pollute marine waters. The sources of marine pollution include the following: Eutrophication is the excess of nutrients in the water body due to several discharges, which leads to oxygen depletion in the water body. Municipal and sewage waste do contaminate water body, leading to deleterious impacts. Organic waste and detergents also contribute to a large part in polluting the water. Pesticides and fertilizers from agricultural sector results in pollution. Oil slicks are obvious contaminants as far as marine pollution is considered. Oil exploration both on shore and offshore activities and accidents that occurs in the sea contaminate water to a major extent. Due to these, the heavy metals like chromium, cadmium, mercury, lead, etc. enter into the aquatic ecosystems and pose severe threat. Effects of marine pollution. Apart from causing eutrophication, a large amount of organic waste can also result in the development of red tides. These are phytoplankton blooms of such intensity that the area is discolored. Many commercially important marine species are killed due to clogging of gills or other structures. The effects of marine pollution include the following: reduced dissolved oxygen (DO) in water that impacts the aquatic life. Reduction of light penetration impairs the lifespan of organisms that are present. Marine pollution also affects the species through accumulation of toxic elements, kills fishes, aquatic birds. Control strategies. Cleaning oil from surface waters and contaminated beaches is a time-consuming, labor-intensive process. The natural process of emulsification of oil in the water can be accelerated through the use of chemical dispersants, which can be sprayed on the oil. The following measures are used to control marine pollution. Accidental discharges can be cleaned skimming process and by using absorbing material like polyurethane foam, PUF, sawdust, etc. Efficient sewage treatment plants also reduces the problem. Dispersion methods. Emulsification methods are also used to curb the pollution. Disposal of industrial waste is the major problem responsible for the pollution. Rapid urbanization with the consequent increase in population and building construction has resulted in the reduction of lands for the waste to be disposed. Scientific disposal of waste and management tends towards a better approach to minimize the problems raised due to pollution. Eco-farming and greener technology is the best option available. To conclude, biodegradable materials are to be developed in order to avert the pollution. However, successful control schemes to prevent pollution will save the life of living biota from its hazardous effect and will protect the natural ecosystem. Marine pollution can be controlled by the management operations both at onshore and offshore, and moreover through sensitization programs. Noise pollution. The human ear is constantly being assailed by man-made sounds from all sides, and there remain few places in populous areas where relative quietness prevails. Noise is undesirable sound. Sound is mechanical transfer of energy without transfer of mass propagation of the sound waves and requires a medium. Noise is defined as unwanted, unpleasant sound that causes discomfort. The differences between sound and noise is often subjective and a matter of personal opinion. There are, however, some very harmful effects caused by exposure to high sound levels. Sound is measured in a unit called the decibel. Sources. The main contributors to noise are factories and industries, transportation, community and religious activities. There should not be an exaggeration to say that we Indians are a noisy people and every sentiment and occasion is manifested in a noisy manner. The chief man-made sources in urban areas are automobiles, factories, industries, transport and airplanes. Noisemakers are horns, sirens, musical instruments, television, radio, transistor, telephone, barking dogs, loudspeakers, washing machines, vacuum cleaner, food mixers, pressure cookers, fans, air conditioners, coolers. There are several sources of noise pollution that contribute to both indoor and outdoor noise pollution. Noise emanating from factories, vehicles, playing of loudspeakers during various festivals can contribute to outdoor noise pollution, while loudly played radio or music systems and other electronic gadgets can contribute to indoor noise pollution. The sources include industry and machinery, transportation, automobiles, trains and planes, community activities, entertainment and construction work. Ambient noise levels in dB, that is decibels, at various zones. Zone: daytime, nighttime, silent zone 50 dB, 40 dB, residential zone 55 dB, 45 dB, commercial zone 65 dB, 55 dB, industrial zone 70 dB, 70 dB. Effects. Noise pollution is a redundant term. Noise itself is a pollutant that is undesirable for human well-being and for aesthetic life. It is difficult to conceive modern life without some kind of noise or other. Urban noise is a factor that is increasingly becoming a nuisance and a health hazard and is thus an environmental pollutant. Effects of noise pollution are felt at individual and local level and have physical, physiological and psychological effects. Noise may affect humans physiologically, that is damage to hearing organs, and psychologically, that is irritation, lack of concentration and other responses. Damages can be long-lasting and irreversible. Effects of noise pollution may be classified as auditory and non-auditory effects that result in imbalances of physical and psychological harmony. Noise pollution causes contraction of blood vessels, results in high blood pressure. Auditory effects impairs hearing, resulting in fatigue to deafness. Non-auditory effects results in interference in communication, annoyance and several diseases. Physical and physiological effects. Loudness of the sound represents the amount amplitudes of the sound wave vibrations. In addition to loss of hearing due to aging, environmental noise can also cause discomfort and loss of hearing. Prolonged exposure to noise of certain frequencies can cause damage to the inner ear. It is called sensational or perceptive hearing loss. This could be permanent in nature. Noise of any kind at any level affects concentration and efficiency of an individual. Noise alters the rhythm of the heartbeat, dilates blood vessels and causes headache and irritability. While infrasound disrupts mental concentration and discomfort, ultrasounds lead to fatigue, nausea, headache and vomiting. Both infra and ultrasounds can be health hazards. Besides, the effects of noise are cumulative. Human beings do not get used to noise in the physiological sense. Noise levels at higher decibels greater than 100 dBs can cause auditory damage, nervous fatigue and loss of balance. Irregular bursts of noises are more disruptive. High-frequency components of noise greater than 1000 Hz may produce more interference. All types of noise reduce efficiency of work, leading to annoyance, irritation and mental fatigue. Infrasounds disrupt mental concentration and discomfort. Control strategies. These include the following measures: reduction of noise at source level using ear protective devices, tree plantation to reduce noise pollution and use of silencers. Noise control and abatement measures. Noise has become ubiquitous and is encountered everywhere in modern urban life. In homes, on roads, workplaces and recreation centers, just about every place. There are various recommended procedures for control of noise pollution. The permitted noise level is 125 decibels as per the Environment Protection, Second Amendment, Rules 1999. Eliminating the source of noise, though desirable, is not always pollution at workplaces. Some measures include reduction in sound levels, minimizing the vibratory parts of the equipment and gadgets by fastening and mechanical support, interrupting the path of the sound by screens and absorbers, preventing the recipient from unwanted sounds by earmuffs and soundproof workplaces. Noise causes health effects and also socio-cultural and economic effects. Most of the time, its effects cannot be evaluated objectively. Noise is generated from a variety of sources such as industries, transport, vehicles, construction activities, generator sets, firecrackers, and a variety of indoor and outdoor sources. A number of acts and rules have been framed in our country for control of noise pollution, but the implementation of the standards that were laid down is a big controversy. Thermal pollution and nuclear hazards. Thermal pollution is defined as the warming of an ecosystem to the point where desirable organisms are adversely affected. The discharge of warm water into the water bodies is thermal pollution. Artificial heating of the environment is termed as thermal pollution. Thermal pollution, heat stress, can have both immediate and long-term effects. Thermal pollution has effects on all processes and systems and has severe consequences locally, regionally, and globally. Natural causes of this type of pollution are volcanic eruptions, and man-made causes are urban phenomena and industrialization. Thermal pollution poses a serious problem that affects all physical, chemical, and biological processes and the metabolism of organisms. A rise of 10 degrees centigrade approximately doubles the rate of many chemical reactions and drastically disrupts thermodynamical phase equilibriums. Sun is the primary source of energy for our planet Earth. The irradiance of the sun, type of soil, water bodies, vegetation, and seasonal and diurnal variations control the temperature of the Earth's surface. Natural causes for thermal variations regionally and globally are volcanic eruptions. Human-related activities such as coal or oil-based combustion, locomotives, and power plants have now become significant contributors to atmospheric thermal pollution. Heat and hot water result from many industrial processes. They are in particular byproducts of the activity of the power stations. The water ejected into the marine mediums has harmful effects primarily on the marine life. The thermal pollution has effects difficult to define with precision. One observes significant interferences of the reduction in the salinity of water and variations of this one in time and space. Several actions of such a pollution were, however, determined. It was in particular established that the hotter the temperature of rejected water is and more harmful is its effect on the benthic organizations. Sources of thermal pollution. The discharges from industries and power plants, especially the warm water, occurs when an industry removes water from a source, uses the water for cooling purposes, and then returns the heated water to its source. Power plants heat water to convert it into steam in order to drive the turbines that generate electricity. For efficient functioning of the steam turbines, the steam is condensed into water after it leaves the turbines. This condensation is done by taking water from a water body to absorb the heat. This heated water, which is at least 15 degrees centigrade higher than the normal water, is discharged back into the water body, resulting in pollution. Coal-fired and nuclear power plants are the main sources along with the industrial effluents that are generating the waste. Hydroelectric power plants also contribute to the main sources of thermal pollution. Effects. The warmer temperature decreases the solubility of oxygen and increases the metabolism of fish. This changes the ecological balance of the river. Within certain limits, thermal additions can promote the growth of certain fish, and the fish catch may be high in the vicinity of a power plant. However, sudden changes in temperature caused by periodic plant shutdowns, both planned and unintentional, can result in death of these fish that are acclimatized to living in warmer waters. The hazardous effects include the following: reduction in dissolved oxygen, DO, content in the water, change in the properties of water, increase in toxicity levels, interference with biological activities of aquatic organisms, food shortage for fish which results in decrease of number, affect water quality and make it useless. Control strategies. Thermal pollution can be controlled by passing the heated water through a cooling pond or a cooling tower after it leaves the condenser. The heat is dissipated into the air and the water can then be discharged into the river or pumped back to the plant for reuse as cooling water. There are several ways in which thermal pollution can be reduced. These include the following: cooling towers. These structures take up less land area than the ponds. Here most of the heat transfer occurs through evaporation. Cooling ponds. These are constructed in large, shallow ponds. Hot water is pumped into one end of the pond and cool water is removed from the other end. The heat gets dissipated from the pond into the atmosphere. Artificial lakes. Thus, thermal pollution poses several threats to various facets of environment, and control of such contamination is the need of the hour, which can be achieved by strict implementation of the policies and standards that were laid down by the enforcing agencies. Sensitization programs do help to a greater extent in curbing the pollution. Nuclear hazards. Natural and technological, that is human-made hazards, can potentially impact the people, economy, environment and property. Nuclear energy can be both beneficial and harmful depending on the way in which it is used. We routinely use X-rays to examine bones for fractures, treat cancer with radiation and diagnose diseases with the help of radioactive isotopes. Approximately 17% of the electrical energy generated in the world comes from nuclear power plants. However, on the other hand, it is impossible to forget the devastation that nuclear bombs caused in the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The radioactive waste from nuclear energy have caused and continue to cause serious environmental damage. Nuclear fission is the splitting of the nucleus of the atom, thereby resulting in energy that can be used for a variety of purposes. The first controlled fission of an atom was carried out in Germany in 1938. However, the United States was the first country to develop an atomic bomb, which was subsequently dropped on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The world's first electricity generating reactor was constructed in the United States in 1951, and the Soviet Union built its first reactor in 1954. In December 1953, President Dwight D. Eisenhower, in his Atoms for Peace speech, made the following prediction. Nuclear reactors will produce electricity so cheaply that it will not be necessary to meter it. The users will pay a fee and use as much electricity as they want. Atoms will provide a safe, clean and dependable source of electricity. Although nuclear power is being used today as a reliable source of electricity, the above statement sounds highly optimistic. Several serious accidents have caused worldwide concern about safety and disposal of radioactive waste. In order to appreciate the consequences of using nuclear fuels to generate energy, it is important to understand how the fuel is processed. Low-grade uranium ore, which contains 0.2% uranium by weight, is obtained by surface or underground mining. After it is mined, the ore goes through a milling process where it is crushed and treated with the solvent to concentrate the uranium and produces yellow cake, a material containing 70 to 90% of uranium oxide. Naturally occurring uranium contains only 0.7% of fissionable uranium, U-235, which is not high enough for most types of reactors. So it is necessary to increase the amount of uranium U-235 by enrichment, although it is a difficult and expensive process. The enrichment process increases the uranium U-235 content from 0.7 to 3%. Fuel fabrication then converts the enriched material into a powder, which is compacted into pellets. These pellets are sealed in metal fuel rods about 4 meters in length, which are then loaded into the reactor. As the fission takes place, the concentration of uranium U-235 atom decreases. After about 3 years, the fuel rod does not have enough radioactive material to sustain a chain reaction, and the spent fuel rods must be replaced by new ones. However, these spent rods are still very radioactive, containing about 1% uranium and 1% plutonium. These rods are a major source of radioactive waste material produced by a nuclear reactor. Initially, it was thought that spent fuel rods could be reprocessed not only to provide new fuel, but also to reduce the amount of nuclear waste. However, the cost of producing fuel rods by reprocessing was found to be greater than the cost of producing fuel rods from ore. Presently, India does operate reprocessing plants to spent fuel as an alternative to storing them as nuclear waste. At each step in the cycle, there is a danger of exposure to harmful radiation and poses several attendant health and environmental concerns. Although a nuclear power plant has significant benefits, an incident which changed people's attitude towards nuclear power plant was the Chernobyl disaster that occurred in 1986. Chernobyl is a small city in Ukraine near the border with Belarus, north of Kyiv. At 1 a.m., April 25, 1986, a test to measure the amount of electricity that the still spinning turbine would produce if steam were shut off was being conducted at the Chernobyl nuclear power station 4. This was important information since the emergency core cooling system required energy for its operation, and the coasting turbine could provide some of that energy until another source became available. The amount of steam being produced was reduced by lowering the control rods into the reactor. But the test was delayed because of the demand for electricity and a new shift of workers came on duty. The operators failed to program the computer to maintain power at 700 megawatt and the output dropped to 30 megawatt. This presented an immediate need to rapidly increase the power and many of the control rods were withdrawn. An inert gas, xenon, had accumulated on the fuel rods. The gas absorbed the neutrons and slowed the rate of power increase. In an attempt to obtain more power, the operators withdrew all the control rods. This was a serious safety option. The degree and kind of damage from nuclear accidents vary with the kind of radiation, the amount of radiation, the duration of exposure, and the types of cells irradiated. Radiation can also cause mutations, which are changes in the genetic makeup of the cells. Mutations can occur in the ovaries or the testes, leading to the formation of mutated eggs or sperms, which in turn can lead to abnormal offspring. Mutations can also occur in the tissues of the body and may manifest themselves as abnormal tissue growths known as cancer. Two common cancers that are linked to increased radiation exposure are leukemia and breast cancer. Although nuclear power is being used today as a reliable source of electricity, the above statement sounds highly optimistic. Several serious accidents have caused worldwide concern about safety and disposal of radioactive waste. Hazardous wastes are solid, liquid or gas waste that can cause death, illness or injury to people or destruction of the environment if improperly treated, stored, transported or discarded. Substances are considered hazardous waste if they are ignitable, corrosive, reactive or toxic. Mixtures, residues or materials containing hazardous waste are also considered hazardous waste. Many dangerous substances can be used only with special precautions that decrease their risks. When discarded, these substances are no longer under the direct control of the user and may pose special hazards to people or other organisms that come in contact with them. Because of such potential risks, hazardous wastes are processed separately from ordinary wastes. Atmospheric characteristics due to pollution, that is reflectivity, smog formation and mode of water vapor precipitation, all these add to global warming and possibly to other global ecological abnormalities like melting of polar ice caps, polluted and corrosive air and acid rains. These can make the survival of organisms more and more stressful. Carbon-based energy sources are wood, peat and coal. These not only produce carbon dioxide, that is CO2, build up in the atmosphere, which is possible only by drastically cutting down the burning of fossil fuel. This means in turn developing and using on a large scale alternate source of energy such as nuclear, solar, wind, hydrogen and geothermal. However, the implied problems for such a change are many, and they include availability of viable options, maturing of technology and economics. Natural gas methane is an excellent alternative source of fuel. It creates less pollution, easy to transport through pipelines and has better heating value, equal energy production per kilogram fuel combustion compared to other carbonaceous fuels. Using greener technology is the viable option to combat pollution. Hope you liked this lecture. Till the next time, it's a goodbye.